Hello, my brothers and sisters. It's Josh Packard. Hey, today I want to remind you and let you know, whether you believe it or not, Christ has saved you. It's over. You've been saved eternally. He's purchased you with his own blood and redeemed you at his own shame and peril. You are utterly accepted before God right now. And everybody's going to go, well, we can't all be saved. Look at around us. Well, the thing is that people aren't acting like they've been saved. They don't believe they've been saved. They don't know what it means they've been saved. There's a lot going on there. So they're still going about to establish their own righteousness rather than submitting to the righteousness of God. And therein lies the problem that's always been here, to where people are blaming God for all the things that is their fault. Not knowing it, in complete ignorance, but still not God's fault. It's ours. Okay. You've been saved. This is the fact, positionally speaking. But between here and there, we have life to live, and families, and communities, and governments. We have to live life here on this earth. God has not left us without any instructions. And that we as Christians tend to ignore the law because we have grace. But that's true. We do have absolute grace. But the law is for our benefit. We're free. But now it's time to get liberty. Okay? So freedom means that you're able to move here and there and do whatever you want without encumbrance. And we do have that as Christians. But the thing that we are lacking right now is liberty. And liberty is the ability to think and explore in your mind without encumbrances. See, and what happens is sin absolutely encumbers our ability to think, and our minds. It won't allow us to wander or be free in our minds in liberty. And I really don't want to mix up those two words, because freedom and liberty are two different things, and liberty is much more valuable, because even in a prison cell you can have liberty. Look at Paul. But you can be completely free to do whatever you want and wander wherever you want and be completely held captive in your mind. And this is instance in the Jews back in the time of Pharaoh. So today, the premise is what we're talking about today is that evil must be restrained in order for good to flourish. And you can see this anywhere where it used to be, because now this isn't the case, because worse things are being taught in school than alcohol and porn. But you don't put liquor stores or pornography, or you don't put any of these things anywhere near schools. They don't do it. Every city has ordinances against it, because they're trying to protect children from the things that are evil and negative in this world, in order for them to be able to focus on what is good and right, and what is necessary to grow as a human into a full, matured human. So this idea is what God is doing with us. He's given us this idea because loving somebody is nourishing them, and nourishing them means to protect them from evil so that they can grow into a full-grown adult and then be able to protect themselves from the things that are being thrown at them and the arrows of the enemy. Okay? So God has given us these commandments so that we can limit and we can recognize the things that are going to tear us down and lead us to death, and that we can also recognize the things that will lead us to life and peace and blessing. So there are consequences to everything we do. We get blessings on one side and we get curses on the other side. And this is in our life. So the law is not used for you to gain righteousness before God, because it's already been purchased by Jesus. But the law helps you to escape the rottenness and the lust that is in the world. So we can have peace while the rest of the world crumbles. Even though we would love for them to have the peace that we have, because if our neighbors are, the more of us that agree, the more of us that are living by God's ordinances, the happier and healthier our communities will be. But as it stands, evil is not being restrained in the world and in our schools, and most alarmingly in our churches. So anyway, today I'm going to talk about something that I'm kind of irritated about, and it's where we see all this gay pride stuff coming and creeping into our schools, LGBTQ and all this other crap. And I'm not saying it because I hate them individually, but I hate their ideology. It's evil. It's not good. This is not someone. See, when I look at somebody from that organization, I look at them and go, man, nobody loved them. Nobody took the time to protect them so they can grow into a full-grown human being. They're still subject to the sum total of their experiences, still subject to their lusts, still subject to evil, because nobody loved them. So when I look around and I see gangbangers and I see all these other people, I mean, my first instinct, like any other person, is, God, I'd like to put a bullet in them. You know what I mean? Because they're just. But if you take another look at them and you go, man, just someone never loved them. Nobody took the time to restrain the evil in their lives so that good could flourish. And there's some anomalies, where people were given the good and treated well, and then went wild. But by and large, most people who do what God says have actually really healthy children, really healthy lives. I mean, honestly. So, if we obey God's laws, we'll receive the blessing in our lives, in our families, and our communities. If we don't, we're going to receive the curses, which are evident everywhere today. But I see it out in the world, and I go, yeah, but this is to be expected. However, it's sad, and I wish these people, someone would have loved them. Because what their idea of love is now is based upon pure animal instinct and taboo and lusts and need. It's not really what love is. Love is something that doesn't take from other people. Love is what seeks the benefit for them. Love is what actually restrains evil so that a person can develop and be good. So when I look at somebody saying they love you while seeking your destruction, like the LGBT crowd or gangbangers, or we'll go into religion later, but when I see that, I go, you're not loving that person because you're using them to fulfill your lusts upon rather than seeking their benefit and their liberty. Hate me if you want to. I'll shed a little tear. Now, speaking of the church today, we have things like here where we're at in Idaho, there's been a huge movement of a lot of women pastors and a lot of women leaders in church. And this is also something that is contrary to God's law and its ordinances. And this is because, and I'm using this to illustrate a point, is that at the fall, Eve usurped her husband, went around him and ate of the fruit without consulting him. Even though he was made first and he was preeminent, and she was made as his partner. He was not made for her as a partner. So she went around him. She usurped him and ate of the fruit. Okay. So that's the very, very first example of feminism. So now, because of this, because of the fall, God says that your desire will be for your husband, but he shall rule over you. But that means that a woman's desire is to have the preeminence over the man. You can see it everywhere. An ungodly woman will always seek to be feminist. She'll always look at, why are men in control? Why are men always griping about it? Because they think that they deserve the headship for some reason. So they're always seeking to get it. Well, when I look in the church and I see these women leaders in the church, I'm going, this is forbidden in the New Testament and the Old Testament, the law and in the New Testament. It's forbidden everywhere. Because a woman who is full grown in faith will deny that need, will deny that sinful need that she has to take dominion over her husband. It's the evidence of her faith and maturity as a Christian that she would get out of the way, and that she would seek to put men in the position of leadership rather than herself. So when I look around and I see these women in positions of leadership, I go, man, you're away from God. You've said, screw you to God, and you've made your own idea of righteousness. Then I look at all these weak, sissy, limp dick men that just take it. And I'm going, okay, you have just allowed yourself to be usurped, just like Adam did, which damned all of humanity. Which role model are you following? Are you following Christ? The one who did not listen to his bride when we asked him to come off the cross to prove to us who he was and this and that. He says, no, I obey God alone. Adam, he was cursed because he listened to his wife over God. Now look at men in the church. You're cursed by subjecting yourself to women in authority in the church and also in the world, just so you know. So that is outside the natural order, and it's backwards that God has established. By you being complacent and complicit in this, you deny God and you will suffer the curse. So will your whole congregation. You guys understand? Tolerance to these opinions is intolerance to God. Okay. And I'm using this to illustrate because there's many other things that God has prescribed, yet we go, screw you, and just go about to establish our own righteousness. In the world, God has established a man and a woman. This is the right relationship because it produces life, a child in the end. It's all evidenced. So a man and a wife produces life. A godly man and a godly woman produces the best life and the best child. Now, you go out in the world and they say, oh, well, no, a man and a man, a woman and a woman can become a man, then a man can become a woman, then they can come back together, all this other stuff. And it's like, no, you're holding yourself in direct rebellion against God's ideology, against his plans and his statutes and ordinances on this earth. You are in direct rebellion. You will suffer curses for it. You're an adulterer. You're anything that God has prescribed against. If you're willfully doing it, you're first of all and foremost telling God to go screw himself. The second thing is that you're going to reap the curse. So no matter what you do, if you call yourself a Christian, you call yourself all these other things, that's great. And you're saved. I believe you are. I believe you're absolutely and utterly saved eternally. But between here and there, you're going to suffer the curse. And those around you and everything. So since you don't love anyone because you're unwilling to restrain the evil in your life and the evil around their lives, you're unwilling and unable and don't even want to try, now you're letting evil creep in to the detriment of everybody. To those that are not full grown, to those that are not able to withstand, children and those that are weak in the faith, you are not loving them by being complicit. Okay, now, I want to go over the 10 commandments, or the first 5 actually, because everybody can quote the second 5. You shall not kill, you shall not commit adultery. Not understanding those either, but the first 5 are the very most important. Without the first one, you have nothing. Without the second one, it's like these are the most important in order. Okay. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol or any likeness that is in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the water under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers of the children on the 3rd and the 4th generations to those who hate me, but showing loving kindness to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of your Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work, you, your son or your daughter, your male or your female servant, or your cattle or your sojourner stays with you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father, your mother, and that your days may be prolonged in the land which your God gives you. Okay, That's the first 5. Okay, let's start with those again. Let's break it down. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Now, this is me. In my experience, I was the sum total of my experiences. I was really, everything in my life was nothing and worthless. I had no idea what love was. I was absolutely empty when the Lord filled me up and loved me and washed me. Okay, at this moment, I became aware of what liberty was. I didn't consciously go, oh, that's liberty, but I became aware of it for the first time. Because freedom I had, I was able to do whatever I wanted, and I exercised my freedom. I did everything you can imagine I've done. Drugs, sex, everything. Fighting, I mean, everything you can imagine. I've done everything. Not as much as some, but much more than most. So, but the thing is in my life, I can tell you right now, and I'm sorry for my parents if they're listening to this, but they didn't know any better because nobody loved them neither. But my parents didn't love me enough to nourish me. They didn't protect me from evil. They didn't do anything. They didn't know better. Because they were just caught up in their lives. Their parents did the same to them, and their parents to their parents, and blah, 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 blah. But my parents did not restrain the evil in my life so that the good could flourish. Okay? Neither did my community. Neither did my teachers. Neither did anything. Nobody loved us when we were in my town. I mean, everybody was just, it's unbelievable. So anyway, when the Lord comes, and I was a sum total of my experiences because I didn't know any better. I was a product of my idea of righteousness and trying to protect myself from my shames, my fears, my guilts. Until those were taken away, I could not come out from underneath the control of those things. And that's called the dominion of sin. Okay? So then anyone who does not know the Lord and his love, they're still underneath the dominion of their sins. And still what you see is an outward expression of what the condition of their heart is. So when I look around at people, I look at the LGBTQ community, and I look at them and I go, well, what's manifested is what's in their heart, because nobody loved them. Nobody nourished them. Nobody tried to direct their course. Nobody loved them enough to say, hey, there's another way. You don't have to be this way. You know, but now it's too late. Well, with God, it's never too late. But, I mean, for the most part, by and large, you look at them and they're already corrupted. Their idea of love is only lust and taboo. There's no real love there. It's all false. There's no liberty. They're doing whatever they want. You can see the freedom expressed, and that's what they're relishing in, that they're free to do whatever they want, but they have no liberty. They're still completely dominated by their lusts and need for sin and need for righteousness. And I'm only using you as an example because it's easy. So that anyone can see it. Anyway. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol or any likeness that is in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the water under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children, on the third and the fourth generations to those who hate me, but showing loving kindness to the thousands to those who love me and keep my commandments. Okay. See, the idolatry he's talking here and bowing down to them is that because of the sum total of your experience, you have an idea of what a proper person looks like in order to fit in with your crowd or whatever it is, denomination. Okay, what happens is that that's been a figment of your imagination. You've established righteousness of your own idea and own understanding, and then you've just spit it in the face of God. God says, you put another God before him, you're going to suffer the consequences of it. Not only you, but also the generations following you. It's a generational, they call it a generational curse. I don't know if I subscribe to that. But unless it goes unchecked, this is bad. And so, but on the other side of it, he says that the blessings will also go to the thousands that love him. So this is a very serious situation that needs to be impressed upon us, is that we need to be diligent. Men, you need to quit letting women dominate you and your sin and beer and sports and all these things. You need to take an active life in an active role in your children's lives, in your community. You need to put down the damn remote. Start thinking, start reading, knowing your scripture, knowing your God, so that we can lead these people out of this crappiness. To be completely neutral is exactly what Satan wants, especially as a Christian. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain. Oh, God damn it. Okay, that is not taking the Lord's name in vain. That's not. What's taking the Lord's name in vain is reminding yourself and others of your sins and their sins, and threatening them with hell and death and all these other things in order to get them to conform to the idea of what you think a Christian ought to be. So if you say that you take the name of the Lord, so you say you're a Christian, yet you still serve sin, you're still under the dominion of sin, you're still afraid of hell, you're still afraid of death, you still deny his victory with every breath you make, you are taking the name of the Lord God, your God, in vain. If you're being complicit to all these the things in your church that you know are wrong, and you're just sitting there just taking it, well, you're part of the problem. Okay, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. And see, for a long time I fought this about the Sabbath day, because the Seventh-day Adventists, they're like, oh, you've got to have the Sabbath and it's got to be on Saturday. And I'm like, well, whatever. And the more I think about it, this is something that we should all be practicing. And the Seventh-day Adventists are right. It's probably on Saturday, because where the Jews say it is, that's where it is, because they're the ones that are following the law, the most accurate. But we do need to take a day of rest for the Lord, and most of us do Sundays or whatever else. But this is for our benefit again, so we can come together as a family, so we can spend the time to get to know God, so we can do the things that we should be doing, so that we can nourish the good and allow it to flourish after we've protected all week from the evil and restrained it in our lives. 6 days you shall do all your labor and all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work, nor you or your son, nor your daughter, nor your male, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your sojourner who stays with you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. So, and honestly, we've entered into this rest every moment because of Christ. So honestly, this is where I'm kind of like, every day I'm in rest with Jesus, but I really do think that we ought to be taking a day. And, I'm still back and forth on this one, but God will make it evident, of course, someday when it's pertinent to me, I guess, I suppose. So, the last one, which everyone thinks should be part of the second 5, but is the first 5. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be prolonged in the land which the Lord God gives you. And this is the commandment of God. And this is a blessing, too. But this is something that is your relationship with God, is how you honor and obey your mother and father. Because God has put them in a position of authority over you, because you were born underneath them. So by honoring them, you do well, and you receive a blessing. All right? And it's just, God has set it up. So if you and your parents aren't getting along, try to do what you can to reconcile. Try to at least get rid of the animosity. But if you can, just make a relationship with your family, your parents, and submit yourself to them if you can. To reap the blessing, not because they deserve it, not because of anything else, but it's just like how a woman submits to a man. It's not because the man's worthy of it, but because God is. And the same thing with our family. It's not because they're worthy, because they're not, but God is. And that's why we do it, and to obtain his blessing. And there's nothing wrong with that as a Christian. I mean, that's something we should be doing. I mean, I hear a lot of people say, well, I don't want to sound like I'm selfish, just doing it because it feels good. And it's like, well, that's what God has given us. That we get a blessing. We feel good when we do the things that are right. We feel bad when we when we do the things that aren't. So we are to pursue the things that make us feel good in the pure sense, as far as, helping each other, looking out for each other, protecting each other, opening doors for each other, doing good deeds for people, doing all this stuff. These are all things that nourish good and relationship and health. And this is fine. But you know what I mean? And so don't ever feel guilty. And I mean, like, in as far as like dating, a lot of people are, well, I don't want to go to the church just for dating because it seems like I'm dishonoring God. I'm like, oh, how? You're gonna find a godly person, And I'm speaking that loosely, because the church has a lot of work to do right now. But a godly woman, and a godly man, and a godly family, this is where the blessing comes from. All right, my brothers and sisters, I hope you see my heart in this. You can see that I do have biases. I'm a human. I don't like gangbangers. I don't like the LGBT community. I don't like anything that is not nourishing or supportive or unifying in our districts. In our districts, I guess, in our communities, I guess I should say. But the thing is, though, when I look at them, and I try to look through Christ's eyes, and I see the pity, I see the absolute broken heart for them, because nobody took the time to love them. Nobody took the time to restrain them. Nobody did this stuff so that they could be free, or they could have liberty, so that sin wouldn't dominate them and corrupt them. And that's the opportunity we have today. Is you and I, as a group, as a community, we can't do anything about the world. God will deal with that. But as far as our churches, as far as our communities, and as far as those whom we choose to bring our children around, we have an absolute duty and responsibility to restrain evil so that our children can flourish and our families can flourish. Porn isn't good. I really think that the huge spike in homosexuality has a lot to do with porn, that people are taken to the positions that they would never go to in real life, but they're taken via porn, they're taken there like overnight, so that they reach these levels of perversion so fast that they don't even have a chance to be restrained. And this is all done, by the globalists, by the way. They're doing this on purpose. First of all, they're trying to corrupt people sexually. They're trying to divide us. And they're doing this through feminism, through race wars, through identity politics, through all these other things. And so what they're doing is they're literally corrupting these people on purpose in order to get their power, and to get their ideologies forced upon us by making these divisions so we'll all hate each other. And this is done on purpose. And I'm sorry, I look at you guys like you're totally falling for it. You're letting them corrupt you, and then you're fighting to stay corrupted. People that are murdering babies, it's like nobody took the time to love these women. The value of life is nothing to them. Nobody took the time to restrain them and to bring them back and to show them what feminism is and how it's an exploitation of your lusts and your desires. How it's a sin that's dominating your life, that's making you miserable, yet you're completely submitted to it. And all you'd have to do is just turn around and put your faith in God. Put yourself back into the right swing of things, and you'd be happy, because you were created to be the helpmeet of the man, not to be dominated to him. You were made for him, not him for you. So you can be miserable your whole life, or you can submit yourself to God's ordinances. And this goes with everybody. If you want to be happy, submit to God. If you want to be right and miserable, then submit to your own understanding of what's good and evil. All right, my brothers and sisters, love you all. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.